gods of our land. I only wanted to marry the most handsome and richest man in the village, not this. Please. Somebody help me!
She did not fall into a trap. Nobody tricked her. Nobody lied to her. In fact, every single person who loved her begged her not to go. The bird warned her. The old woman warned her. Her own father stood at the gates with tears in his eyes and warned her. She looked at all of them and walked straight into the forest anyway, because the man waiting for her was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. What she did not know was that the man was not a man at all. This is the story of Adanna, and before it ends, you will understand exactly why our grandmothers told it again and again and again. Welcome to African Tales by Ebube, the place where the old stories live. If you are new here, this is a channel built on one simple belief, that the stories our grandmothers told us around the fire were never just stories. They were warnings, they were wisdom, they were love, wrapped in words. Before we begin today's story, if you've never subscribed to this channel, this would be a good time. Because once the story starts, you will not want to stop. There is a village in the old stories. You will not find it on any map. You will not find it on any road sign. But if you grow up in the right family and you sit close enough to your grandmother on the right evening, she will lean in and say its name like a secret. Amaeze, a village tucked between two hills, hidden from the rest of the world. Like something the land decided to keep for itself. Wet soil beneath your feet. Warm wind moving gently through tall palm trees. The smell of firewood and fresh rain mixed together in the air. Children laughing somewhere in the distance. Women singing as they pound yam. Old men sitting under the great Iroko tree, telling stories that have lived much longer than any of them. The people of Amaeze were simple people. They farmed, they fished, they danced at festivals, they buried their dead with dignity. They believed in the gods of the land. They believed the forest had ears, and they believed with everything inside them that pride was the most dangerous thing a person could carry. They had a saying in Amaeze: the tree that grows too tall forgets to check the ground beneath its roots. Most people understood what that saying meant, but there was one girl who had never really listened to it, and the forest was already waiting for her. Her name was Adanna, daughter of Amaeze Chukwuemeka, one of the most respected men in all of Amaeze. A farmer, a fair man, quiet but strong, the kind of man other men came to when they needed good advice and could not find it anywhere else. His wife was Ngozi, a warm woman with a big laugh and patient hands, who spent her mornings cooking and her evenings braiding her daughter's hair by the fire. Together they had raised 3 children, 2 sons who worked hard on the farm without being asked, and Adanna, their last child, their only daughter. From the moment Adanna was born, people said she was something special, and they were not wrong. By the time she turned 17, Adanna was the most beautiful girl in Amaeze, maybe the most beautiful girl in all the surrounding villages combined. Smooth dark skin that glowed like polished wood in the afternoon sun, wide shape eyes that noticed everything, a smile that when she chose to show it could stop a man completely mid-sentence. She walked like she knew exactly where she was going, always with her back straight and her chin up. People stared when she passed. Women admired her. Men forgot what they were saying. And Adanna, she noticed all of it. Every glance, every whisper, every turned head. And slowly, quietly, it began to change her. It started small. When she was 15, she stopped greeting elders first. She began waiting for them to speak to her instead. Her mother corrected her. She apologized, but the habit came back. When she was 16, she stopped fetching water from the stream with other girls. She said the work was beneath her. Her father frowned. He told her that no work is beneath anyone. She nodded, but she never went back to the stream. By 17, the pride had fully settled into her bones, like a second skeleton. She stopped eating with her hands at family meals. She walked past women in the market without acknowledging them. She spoke to people with a tone that made even grown men shift uncomfortably in their seats. Her mother watched all of this with a very heavy heart. One evening, as Ngozi sat braiding Adanna's hair by the fire, she spoke carefully. "Adanna," she said softly, "beauty is a gift, but it is only lent to you. One day, and that day will come sooner than you think. It will ask to be returned. What will you have left when it goes?" Adanna looked at her reflection in the small mirror she kept beside her. "By the time that day comes, Mama," she said, "I will have a rich husband who takes care of me, and I will not need anything else." Her mother said nothing. She finished braiding her hair. She tied the last knot. She looked at her daughter's face in the firelight. So beautiful, so closed, and she felt something cold move through her chest. A fear she could not name. The suitors began coming when Adanna turned 18, and they came, like rain, one after the other. Week after week, the first was Emeka, a young farmer with broad shoulders and an honest face. He came to the compound carrying yams stacked high on his head, palm wine in both hands, a kola nut wrapped carefully in fresh leaves. He sat with Mazi Chukwuemeka and spoke respectfully. He said he had been admiring Adanna for a long time. He said he would work hard for her. He said he would never let her lack anything. Adanna watched from behind the curtain. Then she turned away. "A farmer," she whispered to herself. "My hands were not made to dig soil." The second was Tobenna, a young trader whose father owned 3 shops at the main market. He came dressed in fine fabric, smelling of good oil, speaking confidently. He made Mazi Chukwuemeka laugh twice. He made Mama Ngozi smile with the way he accepted food and said thank you without being asked. Adanna watched. She considered for a moment. Then she noticed his teeth. "They are not straight enough," she told her friend later. Her friend stared at her. The third was Obiora, the son of a chief from the next village. Handsome, educated, well-spoken. He rode in on a horse and brought gifts for the entire family. Her brothers liked him immediately. Her father nodded slowly with approval. Her mother clasped her hands together with quiet hope. That evening, Adanna's mother came to her room with bright eyes. "Adanna, did you see the chief's son? Did you see how he is too short?" Adanna said flatly, not even looking up from her mirror. Her mother's face fell. She left the room without another word. And outside, Mazi Chukwuemeka sat alone in the compound, staring at the fire, turning his cup of palm oil slowly in his hands. A neighbor passed and asked him what the matter was. The old man sighed deeply. "My daughter," he said quietly, "is building a wall around herself, and she does not see it." It was a Thursday market day. When everything changed, the Amaeze market was full that morning. Traders from 3 villages had come in. The air smelled like smoked fish and fresh peppers and palm oil. Women argued over prices. Children chased each other between stalls. Somewhere, a man was playing a small flute. Adanna had come to the market with her friend Chisom, a cheerful girl with a loud laugh, who had long accepted that being Adanna's friend meant spending a lot of time listening to complaints about men. They were walking past the fabric stores when Chisom grabbed Adanna's arms. "Look," she breathed. Adanna looked, and she stopped walking. He was standing at the far end of the market, tall, very tall. His skin was deep and dark, smooth like still river water at night. He wore a long black wrapper with a pattern of white lines running through it. Around his neck, a string of white beads, the kind that old priests wore. His face was sharp and clean. His posture was like a man who had never once been told no. He was not buying anything. He was not selling anything. He was simply standing there, looking around the market slowly, like a man choosing something. Then his eyes landed on Adanna, and he smiled. It was the most perfect smile she had ever seen. Adanna looked away quickly. Her heart was beating in a way she had never felt before. "Do you know him?" she asked Chisom. "I've never seen him before in my life," Chisom whispered. "But something about him makes me feel uneasy." Adanna looked back at him. He was still smiling, still looking at her. "You worry too much." And she smiled back. He came to the compound that same evening. He knocked at the gate as the sun was setting. When Mazi Chukwuemeka opened it, the stranger bowed respectfully with both hands together. His name was Okike. He said he was from a land called Ala Ojii, the Dark Lands, far beyond the eastern forest. He said he had heard of Adanna's beauty from traveling traders. He said he had come specifically to see her. He said he wanted to marry her. He said he had enough wealth to give her father whatever he named. He spoke smoothly, every sentence perfectly placed, every word landing softly. Mazi Chukwuemeka listened carefully. He invited the stranger in. He gave him kola nut and wine as custom required. He watched the man's eyes as he spoke. He watched the way he sat, very still, like something that did not need to breathe. He watched the beads around his neck, white as bone. Something was wrong. He could not say what. He had no evidence, no proof. Just a feeling, deep in the center of his chest, like a warning drum, that only he could hear. After Okike left that night, the father called his daughter. He sat her down by the fire. He looked at her for a very long time before he spoke. "Adanna," he said, "I do not trust that man." "Why, father? Did he not speak well? Did he not show respect?" "He did all the right things," Mazi Chukwuemeka said slowly. "But doing the right things and being the right person are not the same. Something in him is not alive, and the way a man should be alive." Adanna looked at the fire. "I think you are imagining things," she said quietly. Her father looked at her. His eyes were full of something she had never seen in them before. Fear. "Adanna, please, listen to me this time." She looked at him, and for one moment, just one, she felt something stir deep inside her. A small quiet voice that said, "Listen to him." But then, she thought of Okike's face, his smile, the way he had looked at her in the market, like she was the only thing worth looking at in the entire world. And the small quiet voice went silent. "I'll be fine, father," she said, and she went to bed. 3 days later, Okike returned. He came with gifts, fine fabric, jewelry, a small carved box filled with things nobody in the village had ever seen before. He presented everything calmly and sat with the quiet confidence of a man who already knew the answer. Adanna's mother pulled her aside before she came out to meet him. "Adanna," her mother said. Her voice was low and tight. "I had a dream last night." "Mama, let me finish." She held her daughter's face in both hands. Her eyes were wet. "I dreamed you walked into a forest, and the trees closed behind you. I called your name and you did not answer. I ran and could not find you." Her voice cracked. "Adanna, my daughter, please, do not go with this man." Adanna looked at her mother's face. The tears, the shaking hands, the raw fear in her eyes. She felt her chest tighten. She almost said yes. She almost said, All right, Mama, I will not go. But then Okike's voice floated in from the compound, deep, warm, and her chest loosened again. It was just a dream, Mama, she said softly. She removed her mother's hands from her face, gently. She kissed her forehead. I'll be fine. Her mother sat down on the floor of the room. She said nothing more. She just folded her hands in her lap and looked at the ground, like a woman who had run out of words. Adana walked out into the compound. Her father was standing by the gate. He did not smile. He did not say goodbye cheerfully. He just looked at her. For a long time, then he said, in a voice so quiet she almost did not hear, "The road you are choosing, I pray it brings you back to me." She hugged him. She felt how tightly he held her back. Then she stepped through the gates, and Okike smiled. They left Amaeze as the morning sun was climbing. Adana walked beside Okike with her small bundle on her head. She felt free, excited, like a new chapter of her life was beginning. The village disappeared behind them. The path entered the forest. For the first hour, everything was pleasant. Okike told her stories about his land. He described a great house with many rooms, servants, fine things, a life nothing like Amaeze. He spoke about her like she was something precious, something rare that he had searched a long time to find. Adana listened and smiled and felt warm. But then the forest began to change. The trees grew taller. Their branches reached across the path overhead, like arms stretching to hold hands, blocking out more and more of the sky. The air became cooler. The sounds of birds and insects slowly faded. The red soil of the path darkened to brown, then to black. Adana noticed it but said nothing. Then the first warning came. A bird dropped from somewhere high up in the trees and landed on a branch directly in front of them. It was small, brown, with a white chest. It looked at them, looked specifically at Adana, with eyes that seemed too large and too knowing for such a small creature. Then it opened its beak and it spoke. "Turn back, daughter of Amaeze. Turn back, while the path still knows your feet. The man beside you is not a man. Turn back, turn back, turn back." Adana froze. She grabbed Okike's arm. "Did you hear that? The bird. Birds make sounds," Okike said calmly. "That is all. It means nothing." He kept walking. Adana stood still for a moment. She looked at the bird. The bird looked back at her. Its eyes did not blink. "Turn back." She took a breath and kept walking. They walked for an hour. The forest had become very dark now. Sunlight came through the leaves in thin scattered lines, like something trying to reach through, but barely making it. Then an old woman stepped out from between two trees. She was small and thin, her face deeply lined, her hair white and loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were yellow-brown and very sharp, the eyes of someone who had seen many things and forgotten none of them. She stood directly in their path. She looked at Okike once. Her expression did not change. Then she looked at Adana, and she moved fast. She grabbed Adana's wrist with both hands, her grip surprisingly strong for such a small old woman. She pulled her close and whispered directly into her ear, "Child, you are walking into the land of the dead. The thing beside you is not living. It is wearing a body the way you wear a wrapper, and it will take it off. Go back." Now, before Okike stepped forward, "Old woman," he said, his voice still calm, still smooth, "remove your hands from my wife." The old woman looked up at him. For just 1 second, something moved across her face. Not fear exactly, something older than fear. She released Adana's wrist slowly. She looked at Adana one more time. Her eyes said everything. Her mouth could no longer say. Then she stepped back into the forest and was gone. Adana stood very still. Her wrist felt cold where the woman had held it. And who was that? She asked. Nobody, Okike said. Come. She looked at the space between the trees where the old woman had vanished. Her feet did not want to move forward, but Okike had already taken her hand in his. His hand was dry and firm, and somehow, she noticed this only now, had no warmth to it, like holding a piece of wood. She told herself it was the cold of the forest and kept walking. They walked until the last thin line of sunlight above the trees disappeared completely. The forest was now black, not the black of night, the black of something deeper, a darkness that felt like it had been there since before the world was made. No moonlight, no stars, just Adana, and the figure beside her, and the sound of their feet on the ground. Then the figure stopped. Adana stopped too. Are we here? She asked. The figure turned toward her, and then something happened. Her fingers dissolved first. Not like smoke. His fingers dissolved. Not like water. Not like smoke. Like they simply decided to stop existing. One moment they were there. The next moment nothing. Just the air, where his hand had been. Adana stared. Okike. His hands were gone. Then his arms. The rich black wrapper hung in the air for one moment, then folded and dropped to the ground like it had been emptied. His legs vanished, his torso, his neck, and scattered across the black ground with a sound like small bones. Adana's whole body went cold. His face was the last thing to go. That perfect, smooth, beautiful face. It faded slowly, like a flame going out, until there was nothing but a skull, sitting on the ground, glowing faintly, with a pale, cold light. Adana opened her mouth. The scream that came out was the kind that tears something inside a person making it. She turned and ran, blindly, desperately, arms reaching forward into the darkness. Feet pounding the black ground, branches hitting her face, roots catching her feet. She stumbled, she fell, she got up and kept running. She ran until she could no longer breathe, until she stopped and realized she did not know which direction she had come from. Every direction looked the same. Black trees, black ground, black sky, no path, no light, no sound. She was lost. She sank to her knees on the cold ground and she broke. She cried in a way she had never cried before. Not the tears of embarrassment, not the tears of frustration. These were deeper tears, the kind that come from somewhere underground inside a person, the kind that only come when a person finally, truly understands what they have done. She thought of her father at the gate. The road you are choosing, I pray it brings you back to me. She thought of her mother on the floor of the room, hands folded, looking at the ground, out of words, out of hope. She thought of the bed. Turn back, turn back, turn back. She thought of the old woman's hands on her wrist, the urgency, the fear, the eyes that said everything. She had been warned by the forest itself, by the spirits of the land, by her own blood, and she had not listened because she had been beautiful and she had been proud and she had believed those two things made her untouchable. I am sorry, she whispered, to nobody, to the darkness, to the gods of the land. I am sorry. Please, please, let me go home. She sat there for a long time. Time felt different in that darkness, stretched, hollow, but then, slowly, she became aware of something, a light Small, distant, warm, not the cold pale glow of the skull. This was different. This was the color of firelight. Orange gold, gentle. It was there, between the trees, far away, like a lamp, seen from the end of a very long road. Adana lifted her head. She looked at it for a long time, afraid to trust it, afraid to move toward it in case it disappeared, afraid it was another trick from whatever had brought her here. But then, something deep inside her, not a voice exactly, more like a feeling, a pull, like a hand on her back. Go. She got up slowly. Her legs were weak. Her face was wet. Her wrapper torn at the hem from running. She took one step toward the light. It stayed. She took another. It stayed. She walked, slowly at first, then faster. The light did not run from her. It simply waited, patient and warm. As she made her way through the dark trees toward it, the forest began to thin. The trees grew less close together. The ground beneath her feet changed, from black soil back to brown, then back to dark red. The air changed too. It warmed. It lost that deep cold that's been sitting in her lungs since the darkness began. Then she heard something. Crickets. The sound of crickets singing in the night. She almost fell to her knees again when she heard them. That ordinary sound. The most ordinary sound in the world. The sound that every night in Amaeze went to sleep to. She had never once thought that the sound of crickets could feel like being held. She ran toward it, and then, there it was, the edge of the forest. Beyond it, open ground, wet soil, the silhouette of thatched rooftops, against a sky full of stars. Amaeze, she ran. Past the first compound, past the second, down the path she had walked 1,000 times. She reached her father's gate. She hit it with her fist. Father, father, open the gate. A long pause. Then the sound of feet. Fast, and the gate swung open. Mazi Chukwemeka stood there. His face moved through shock and confusion. And then, before he could stop himself, his face broke open completely. He grabbed his daughter and held her with both arms. He held her the way a man holds something he thought he had lost forever. His whole body shaking. Adana, my daughter, Adana. He just kept saying her name, like he needed to hear it in the air, to believe it was real. Then Mama Ngozi appeared in the doorway and stopped. She looked at her daughter. She did not run. She did not scream. She simply walked forward, slowly, and when she reached Adana, she cupped her face in both hands and looked at her for a long time, as if checking every part of her. Then she pulled her in and held her so tight that Adana could barely breathe, and she did not let go for a very long time. Morning came gently over Amaeze. The sun climbed slowly. A rooster called from somewhere across the compound. The smell of firewood and morning soup drifted through the air. Adana sat outside on the low wooden bench in front of the hut. Her hair was loose, her wrapper freshly changed. She had slept finally, deeply, and woken up feeling like something heavy had been lifted from her chest. She sat and watched the village wake up. Old Mama Chidera shuffled past with a bucket heading to the stream. She saw Adana and raised her hand in greeting. Adana stood up quietly, pressed her arms together respectfully and bowed. The old woman looked surprised, then smiled and walked on. Emeka passed by with a hoe on his shoulder. He glanced at her, his eyes guarded. He nodded and walked on. Adana watched him go. She thought about how she had looked at him from behind that curtain. A farmer. Like those words were an insult. Like the sweat and the soil and the honest work of his hands were things to be ashamed of. She felt it rise to her face. Not pride, not shame. Real shame. The kind that changes something. Her mother appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of hot pap. She handed one to Adana and sat beside her. They sat quietly for a while, watching the compound. Then Adana spoke. Mama, I almost did not come back. Her mother said nothing, just held her cup with both hands. If not for that light, Adana stopped. She shook her head slowly. I do not even know what it was. Mama Ngozi looked at her daughter. The elders say that when a child is truly sorry, truly the land hears it. The spirits of the ancestors hear it. Maybe the light was your grandmother. She loved you so much when she was alive. Adana looked at the sky. Her throat was tight. I wasted so much time, she whispered, being proud, looking down at good people, turning away from good things because they were not shiny enough. The man I was so sure was perfect was not even alive. Her mother looked at her for a long time. Then she said simply, now you know. 3 words, not a lecture, not an I told you so. Just 3 quiet words that held everything. Now you know. Ada leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. And they sat together in the morning light, drinking their pap, while Amaeze moved and breathed and lived all around them. They say that after that night, Adana changed, not all at once, not overnight the way stories sometimes say. Slowly, the way a person heals from a deep cut. First, it stops bleeding, then it closes, then the scar forms, and finally, after time, you can barely see where the wound was. She began greeting elders first. She went back to the stream with the other girls. She laughed more easily and cried more easily. She looked people in the eyes when she spoke to them, not from above, but level, eye to eye, person to person. And in time, she married. Not a rich man from a faraway land. Not a man with a perfect face and expensive clothes, and words that landed like honey. She married Emeka, the farmer, the one with the broad shoulders and the honest face, and the slightly uneven teeth that she had once dismissed without a second thought. He was not perfect, but he was real, warm-blooded and warm-hearted. He worked hard. He came home every evening. He laughed at her jokes. He sat with her father. He helped her mother carry firewood when her back was sore. And Adana, who had once believed she needed the most extraordinary man in the world, discovered something nobody had been able to tell her, because it was the kind of thing that can only be learned. That ordinary, when it is real, is more extraordinary than anything dressed up to look perfect. The story of Adana traveled the way stories do in places where people still talk to each other in the evening. From Amaeze to the next village and the next, mothers told it to daughters, grandmothers whispered it to little girls sitting on their lap. And always, at the end, they added the same words. Not everything that is beautiful is alive, and not everything that is alive is beautiful. Learn to know the difference before the forest teaches you itself. The forest of Amaeze still stands. People still pass its edge on the road to the market. Some of them glance into the trees as they pass. Some say they have seen, very deep between the trees, a faint pale glow, cold and still, like something sitting, waiting. The elders say it is the skull, still there, still waiting for the next girl who was too proud to listen. If you are ever walking and a bird speaks to you from a branch, if an old woman grabs your wrist with trembling hands and wild eyes, if your father stands at the gate and his voice breaks as he watches you leave, just stop and listen. The forest is quiet, but you may not get a second chance. This has been African Tales by Ebube. If this story moved something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. They may not know they need it, but you do. And if this story reminded you of someone, a friend, a sister, a daughter, send it to them right now before this video ends. Drop a comment below and tell us, at which warning would you have turned back? The bird, the old woman, or the father at the gate? We want to know. There are more stories waiting for you here on this channel. Old stories, true stories, stories that our grandmothers carried in their chests like fire, so that we will never have to learn the hard way. If you are not yet part of this family, you know what to do. As our elders say, the child who listens live long enough to become the elder. Until next time, bye-bye.